Hi, I'm Everett. Welcome back to the shop. This is part B of part 10 of the shaper reassembly, and we just have a few more parts to finish off fixing and making, and once we do that we can light the shaper up. So thanks for joining in. If you haven't seen the first part of part A, then at least please pop over and have a look at that. Just because of the fact that there are a few things that people sent in, some of which are shaper related and are really pertinent to what I'm doing here. So otherwise, thanks for joining in, and we'll just carry on fixing and making parts. I do need to do a little bit of welding, but in this case actually brazing. This little pin here is the ratchet pawl for the table feed mechanism. Put a couple pictures up here showing what, where it sits and what it looks like. If you look really closely in this one picture, you'll see once the pin engages the pawl engages the teeth, the hole for the retaining pin is sub flush of the surface it needs to sit. Somebody's gotten onto this thing and ground on the front surface at one point, and when I got it, it just had a piece of basically baling wire holding it in place. So this is a hardened piece. If I take the file, and it just skates right off it without hardly touching it. So I realized that, I thought about making another one, but again, I'm trying to maintain and repair as many of the original pieces as possible. I thought about welding some onto the end, but then you wind up with alloy issues and whatever. I'm just figuring, at this point, I've been playing with a little bit of TIG brazing. I'll just add a little bit of TIG braze to it and file it to shape. So that's what we're going to do. Sitting about 70 amps. Let's see how well this works. I mean, worst case scenario, I make a new one, but I'd like to fix this one. That is horrendously ugly. And I realize this is probably taking whatever hardness the material had out of it. I'm not sure. We'll see. One way or another, I figure bronze is a fairly decent material for wear, and it'll work well enough for a ratchet pawl for the feed mechanism. Yeah. I still need more practice. Well, to be honest, after doing a bit of fiddling with the file, it's not my proudest job of filing and brazing, but I did actually test it over on the machine, just sort of halfway fitting it, and it will work. It does ratchet, and the way I see it, if it fails, I can always make another one. I'd like to try saving the original first, though. Now, one last thing we need to do for the table advance mechanism. When they brazed this piece back together, they happily brazed over and through the oil feed hole to keep this thing oiled up. I don't want to go through there simply because of the fact that I can see where there's a bunch of that glass, the leftover flux that forms in there, and if they got it hot enough, they may have hot spots and hard spots in there. I'm just going to go just to the side of it here. I'm going to make a little well, and then I'll drill a small hole through it. Nice that it is cutting fairly reasonably. Yeah, that'll be good enough. Yep. So yeah, turns out the idea here of moving the table to make room for the chuck to install it failed. So I did actually have to raise the head and just figure out close enough. It's an oil hole, so thankfully if I'm off by a few thousandths it doesn't matter. But yeah, such is life. In fact, what I can do is I may even bring it closer to center this way, because we're a little off center here. Yeah, right there. I'll use that. It's a little off center, but we'll make it work. So yeah, our new little oil hole will be useful. So now we're down to the last part I need to make before I can actually, well, start this thing up and try it out. This is the tool post, and the clamp bolt that came with it I really don't like and I don't trust. So what I'd like to do is make another one. It needs to have roughly about 2 inches worth of thread, probably another ½ inch worth for a head. I'm going to make it a square, about 5/20 across, just so it fits the 7/16 Whitworth 7/16 width wrench that I have. Anyway, I'll do that. It'll be a ½ inch Whitworth thread. So anyway, what I'm going to do is I'm also going to leave another 5/8 worth of shoulder on it, and that's so I can use the collet block in order to cut the square. To make this part, I'm going to use a chunk of this, well, U-bolt off of a truck, like a heavy truck. It's 7/8 across, which once I clean it up a bit should give me enough material in order to make the bolt we need. Plus I know it's decent material. So off camera what I'm going to do is I'm going to knock a chunk off the right length that I need for stock, wire wheel it to clean it up, and then we'll bring you back in. So there we go. That looks a little more usable. Like I say, it's just an old truck spring U-bolt. And there are a couple of spots where it's not super great as far as being out around, but that doesn't matter for our purposes. What we're going to do is we'll face it, center drill the end here, then I'll turn the diameters down that I need, and then we'll thread it to a 1/2 inch 12 Whitworth. All right, I'm just going to throw this or cut this off here with the bandsaw or a hacksaw. Grab it on here. This is a 5/8 diameter journal, so I can grab it with the 5/8 collet because I don't have a 3/4 or anything like that. I don't have a half, which would be nice to grab here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to grab onto here with the 5/8 collet, make 4 flats on here, and then we'll cut this end off and then face it. I'll do that off camera. I want to get to the point of actually getting this machine running. Well, again, I'm up way later than I should be. I just so close I can taste it with this thing. What I've done is I've already put the new or the labels back on, like up top here and wherever. I ran short by a few screws, so I did use a few Phillips head ones because that's what I had in stock, drilled into the casting to replace those drive pins. So no, it's not 100% original, but again, I'm trying to keep the spirit of it anyway, even if those aren't original screws holding the some of the labels on. But we can finally get down to this part here, where we basically we can install the mechanism to advance the table. So to start with, what we'll do is we'll take this guy here, crank arm sort of thing, and this rod, which we replace the rod. Now that's going to, there. So that pivots on there. Then we'll take our repaired pin, or well, ratchet pawl rather. Stick that in there. At which point, we take our roll pin here. Alright, so that's there. That's where our ratchet goes. Now we'll take our knob. Thanks again, Tony, for the knobs. Oh, man, this is really starting to look the part. Now this guy goes on like so. And it rides right there. This gear here, or this little toothed wheel, is what the pawl rides on, the little ratchet pawl. Make this completely awkward, but so you can see it. I'm trying to make sure that I line up the set screw with that munged up hole. Yep. There we are. Has a set screw that we tighten down. That's how that works. Flip it the other way. Whoops. I mean, again, you got it once the backlash is taken up. I mean, there's definitely some backlash in that feed mechanism. So now this piece here, just loosen that off. Slide that in. Well, actually, we need to engage this rod first. Slide it through. Slide that into that slot. Snug down with that nut we made. And I think we're just about in business to be able to run this. Now with this linkage rod set up out there, start it up, and then running or turning the clutch on, or now engaging the clutch should move this back and forth. And it's moving it this way. 3 clicks. Yeah, it's moving it this way by 3 clicks at a time. Now, because our feeds are 8 to 32 thousandth in crossfeed, my suspicion is it's, that would be 3 teeth is 24 thousandths. So let's see if we can get this a little smaller. Plus, let's give that little bronze piece at least a fighting chance of survival. There we go, 1 tick. So yeah, I decided to try putting a vise on it tonight. Again, this vise is going to need to be cleaned up and made nice again, but for tonight's purposes it will work just fine. Even then, this is only a rough squaring. If I were to seriously actually want to cut something, I'd be certainly working a little harder to make it nicer. You know, seems like a person has just junk all over until you actually need to find a piece of scrap that you're not too worried about. And off camera, I just ground up a piece of 1/2-inch tool bit. There. Nice. And get it close. Yeah, that's close. Mark off our vertical. Yep, vertical's locked. Would kind of prefer a longer handle at some point, but we'll see. There we are. There you go. Oh, I like it. All right. Move this over. Figure out what our 0 is. Okay, that's our 0. That is our 0. Then if we say, oh, what, 10th thou depth of cut for part of it? We'll go moderate here. Say 10th thou depth of cut from where we're scratching here. And then should be able to light it up. Oh, this is so cool. Like I say, I haven't run one of these things since high school. And I'm sure my surface finish is nasty. I'm sure I'm doing something wrong. But I got chips flying over on the other side of the shop, and that makes me happy. See, this is one of the reasons why I wanted one of these machines. One of the many reasons. But this is a piece of hot rolled, and it's got that nasty mill scale on the outside. Well, I can take this piece of high-speed steel and sharpen it a gazillion times, and it'll keep cutting. But this gets below that crusty surface and saves my end mills, because they add up after a while. apart from some scraping marks, that's not a bad finish at all. Little rough over here, but you know, again, it's just I need more learning time, and again, this is the first time in 25 years I've used one of these things. So, that is so cool. I'm happy about that. Yeah. And again, I'm sure I'm doing a pile of stuff wrong. That's fine. I'll learn. But I look at this, and I mean, yeah, that's cool. Oh, well, it's only been since Easter I've been working on this thing off and on when I can get time. At least I got it running before Thanksgiving. So, yeah. Thanks for coming along for the ride. Well, I have to say, I am tickled to see that thing actually peeling a chip. Again, first time I've used one in 25 years, so it's going to be a bit of a learning curve for me. Again, I don't know. I'm still learning about tool bit grinds for a shaper versus a lathe. It's a new learning adventure for me. But thanks to everybody who came along for the ride. I realized I didn't have much as far as tearing it apart. That was just basically quickly to get it out of the truck. For some people, I know some of the details probably been a little too much. Some people it probably hasn't been enough. But I just, yeah, one way or another. Thank you everybody for joining in. Thank you all to who've subscribed. If you haven't subscribed but just happen to be passing through, thanks for coming through. It's good to see you. Also wanted to say, again, a big thanks to Everett and John Creasy for putting on the Tips Blitz 2019. It was really cool to go through the list of different producers and creators and see their ideas. A couple of ideas I'm going to steal from other people and definitely use them. But yeah, thanks again, Emma. Thanks, John. Thank you again, Anthony, for the cool box of tool bits and stuff and the little surprise there. Flashlight came in handy while I was working on the shaper. Thank you to Pierre and Phil for that set of machinist jacks. That was awesome. And thank you so much, Tony, for those parts. That saved me a pile of time in trying to figure out how to make knobs that would look like they'd match as well. Just, yeah, thank you. You put the icing on the cake for this thing. It looks cool with all the original parts. So thanks for watching, thanks for subscribing, and I'll see you all next time.